Hello, loves. We are currently 1 week out from the Lunar New Year, transitioning out of the snake and into the fire horse. And the Lunar New Year is always activated by a new moon. And it's always in Aquarian season because it is the second moon after winter solstice. Winter solstice will always be in Capricorn, and thus the second moon within that timeline would be Aquarius. And I often find, regardless of what kind of moon it is under, the week leading up to a new moon is always about reflection and refinement, so that when the new moon arrives, it becomes the energetics of readiness and rebirth. You're not scrambling or feeling like you're starting from scratch because you spent the days leading up to it shedding, noticing the things that might hold you back, being honest about excuses you've been making for yourself, noticing where you've been too distracted, giving too much excess energy away. And then when it comes time for yourself, you don't have much left, or you're having to always dip back into your reserves, which physically isn't the best use of you. So I want to share my own experience in doing this leading up to our new moon, so that perhaps it can give you a little bit of that reflection point and that wherewithal to do some self-examination for the areas in your life where it's not quite clicking together, and maybe the reasons why you're off track are more simple than you realize, which then gives you the permission for things to come more on track, more online, and more available for the universe to co-create with you. So I just celebrated my half birthday. Yes, I do that, and you should too. The half birthday is literally the halfway point of the sun in your solar year. So the day that you were born, that's your birthday to the world. It is the moment that your soul chose to come here and take its first breath. Beautiful. We love it. Within that, then, the sun is going to go on a journey with you until it loops back till that day that you were born. I like to monitor when the halfway point is because it gives us leverage. It gives us a moment to reflect and be like, okay, what were the first 6 months of my yearly refresh like? And based on that, what needs to fall away? What needs to accelerate? And where am I just like good and steady and want to keep it going for the next 6 months, the journey ahead? I tend to think that the first 6 months of our year tend to be a little bit, have more tension, more pressure. I don't want to say they're harder because sometimes you can have tension and all of these different things on you, and yet at the same time you can actually be really successful with it. And at the same time, it's going to show you, okay, we got some momentum going. We got some success. We're generating more of what it is that you want, what it is that you're looking for. And we're highlighting some blind spots for you. We're letting you know now some things that might get in the way if you continue this process. So I see the birth return, the solar return day, that 6 months, it is kind of like going up the hill. And the beautiful thing about going up the hill, hiking up a mountain, is it ebbs and flows. There's moments where you have your stride and you're doing it and you feel aligned and your body feels strong and you love the way that your feet are just like landing and grooving into the soil and your hips have this delicious sway. And then there's moments where it's just like, oh my goodness, like I need more water. I'm tired. My mind is scattered. It's wondering why we did this. What was the point? Can we turn around and go back? No, don't turn around and go back. You already made it this far. Just keep going. Keep doing what you're doing. So I was like, okay, I can do this. And then before you know it, you get to the top. And then once you get to the top, you get to that halfway point of your year. You're able to now see out. You're able to admire the view. You're able to exhale. You're able to take a break. You're able to lay down and be like, exhale. Now let me review this journey that I just took. And then based on that, where do I go from here? And it's not always downhill though. So when we reach that peak of the halfway point, I like to think that it actually flattens out and it kind of plateaus for a minute. and we get to just ride the plateau for a few months. And then as we get like 3 months into that, it starts to trail downwards. Before we know it, we're back to our solar year again. So all that to say, it was my half birthday coming up. I wasn't really thinking too much of it. Sometimes I remember, sometimes I forget. For me, when I was born, it was a Leo sun, Leo new moon, which then always means every Aquarian season, the opposing season is going to be not only my opposition of my solar return, there's always going to be a full moon in Leo and Aquarius season. So whatever sun sign season we're in, there's going to be a new moon in that. And then 6 months later, there'll be a full moon in that sign. So I was born under a new moon in Leo, which means Aquarius season. 6 months later, there's always going to be that full moon. So the full moon this year was February 1st. The reason why it doesn't sync up exactly is because Mama Moon moves faster than the sun. So it takes the sun roughly 365 days to move through the zodiac. It takes Mama Moon 28 to 29 days to move through the zodiac. So because of that, they land at different paces throughout the year. So on February 1st, there was a full moon in Leo, which definitely brought up for me this feeling of how am I spending my time, and how am I investing in my freedom? What does time freedom look like as a business owner? And also, what does it look like personally? Because I will say I turned 42 on August 9th. I was actually in Seattle, where I was born, under a full moon in Aquarius. And I feel like that contributed to Seattle's win. So any Seahawk fans, you're welcome. And I was so ripe and hopeful under that Seattle solar return, even though it was kind of rocky. I was on my Saturn return. I had a lot of things happen that was just like disastrous. And unfortunately, it kind of set the tone for the next 6 months. The last 6 months for me were really hard. I'm going to be honest. I felt like I was the hangman in tarot. I was flipped upside down, and literally I was being just like shaken by this like tree that I was hanging on. The tree was just like shaking all the debris, all the excess, all the loose change, all the distractions, all of the stories, all of the things that I was still grasping onto, all of the areas where I still wasn't fully having faith, all of the moments where I didn't quite trust or believe my voice. It was literally putting me in this surrender, suspended state so that I could turn it around. And there were so many moments within that 6 month stretch where I was feeling like it wasn't working, feeling like my business wasn't thriving. And this has been a few years in the making, to be honest. Honestly, ever since Saturn went into Pisces for me, which was in March of 2023, I just have not felt aligned. It was hitting my 8th house, which is other people's money, life cycles, and I just couldn't get my groove. And at the same time, it was actually trying to show me different aspects of how I was handling my energy, my time, and my resources, and what proper exchanges for me look like. And that is something that I struggle with because I am a Leo sun, moon, rising. I grew up in a household where the idea of time freedom, the idea of making money passively, having excess wealth, wasn't really a thing. Even though we lived an upper middle class lifestyle, that was kind of the threshold. It's like you make just enough money to be comfortable. But then once you're comfortable, anything beyond that is too much. And that story really came back around for me. And I was letting that story win. And I was letting it interfere with my finances. I was letting it interfere with my bank account. I was letting it interfere with my voice because my voice is my moneymaker. When I speak, when I share, when I talk, when I vocalize, when I write, when I am in the realm of communications, that is where I thrive. And that is how I survive. And I was denying myself that, and it felt like I couldn't survive. It felt like I couldn't make ends meet. And honestly, I wasn't. The first couple months after my birthday were really tight. to the point where I didn't know how I was going to pay my rent, where I was barely eating, where I was doing whatever I needed to take care of Zara and myself, and I was just getting by. And I was doing that with the hope that somehow this would all get figured out. I was looking for other jobs, kept getting denied because I'm at the age now where like I'm really not quote unquote qualified for the corporate world anymore, at least in the ways that I was trying per se, and it was so uncomfortable, and I didn't know how I was going to make it through. Further, I was looking back at choices that I made when I first moved to Austin. They weren't. I overexceeded my budget. I, at the same time, lost a couple big clients that I was factoring into said income. And so it didn't do that to punish me, but it was like teaching me, if you want to live an abundant life, yes, take risks and open up, but also be realistic. And I wasn't, for whatever reason, willing to be realistic. And that's actually, which is really interesting, what Saturn and Pisces taught me. Because Saturn is all about like rules, discipline. Pisces is like, I wanted to be more like the Pisces. Pisces are born ready to retire. They're just like, la, la, la. And then when anything like comes their way that feels like work or feels difficult or feels like they have to, they resist it. And I was in a very resistant state around my reality. And it got to a point where I didn't feel alive within my life. There were so many moments, especially as we entered into the fall equinox, where I was like, what am I doing here? What is the point? Like, I was asking those questions. And not to sound morbid, but I really was like, why am I here? And not that I was going to do anything, but there was this constant narrative of like, I don't need to be here, apparently. And I was feeling crushed under the weight of old storylines around money and not being willing to activate my truth and using my voice in a way that would actually make me money. And that was because of an old hold, an old lineage, old inherited truth around money and performance and visibility. And it got to the point where things got so tight and the tree kept shaking me to finally be like, Danielle, will you just do the thing that people want you for? Will you just trust us? And that's what I did. I finally just got to a point where I was like, my truth is the Aquarian age. My truth is reassurance. My truth is reminding people that it is okay. Not that it's going to be okay. Reframing it to, you are okay. I want you to do that. Instead of saying it's going to be okay, it's lovely to hear that, yes, it's going to be okay. But what about right now? That's great for your future. But right now, I am okay. I am okay. Look in the mirror. I am okay. I am good. I am in trust. And when I started to shift that, when I started to release this, what I started to do essentially was treat social media and people that were watching me, and not everybody, I love you. If you're listening, it's not you. But people that were watching or people that I created some narrative around, I was acting like judgment from my family line. I felt like people were constantly judging what I was doing. They were watching me. Because that's the kind of household I grew up in. I grew up in a household where you always had to be available. You always, like, even though I had my own room, which I was very grateful for, my mom called me, you had to come downstairs. If she wanted you and you were in the middle of something, it did not matter. You had to stop what you were doing and go. Even walking into the household, I never really knew what version I was going to get and how I was meant to respond. I am someone that is considered neurodivergent. I never really loved conventional learning systems. And so it was definitely a quote unquote struggle to quote unquote get me through school. which is annoying because I'm intelligent and I know that. But what happens when you're intelligent, maybe you can feel into this with me. You are intelligent. You are smart. You're savvy when it comes to using your body, tapping into the land, connecting dots, looking at patterns, figuring things out through observation. That's my brilliance. However, that brilliance isn't really the way education works. So because of that, I was doing it wrong. I was doing it wrong. Why can't you just do it right? And so what was happening to me in this last year, and collectively we were in a 9 year, so there was lots of wrapping up. There was a lot of that snake energy. Snakes are, some people like snakes. If you're watching The Traders, oh my gosh, Rob, the snake handler, oh, we like him. Oh, he's so cute. I don't really want to be with him, but I love looking at him. And I love how you don't know if he's manipulating you or not. And that's so snake energy. Like, he really is like the embodiment of the snake. But for the most part, most people don't like snakes because snakes make you uncomfortable. You don't know if they're going to attack. You don't know if there's going to be more. There's kind of this slimy feeling. There's a hissing sound. And that's honestly what the snake was doing to us. It was making us uncomfortable. It was making us have to sit with something that has been hissing at us for so long. And so when I was struggling with how do I get my business back up and online again, because it was really just a slow drip, a slow burn, I kept being like, but I wasn't looking at my intelligence. I was looking at the intelligence that I thought I had to be to figure this out, to figure out why I was in a jam, to figure out why I wasn't profitable, to figure out why I wasn't getting traction. And it was because I wasn't believing in my unique genius. I wasn't playing into my brilliance. I was somehow back in a role where I'm trying to play cards with someone else who's the dealer. And so growing up in a household where you always had to be available, where you never really knew what the energy was going to be that day, there was also a lot of questioning. I don't like questioning. I just don't. I mean, have me on an interview, ask me all the questions. I like questions when it's about my genius and it's via someone that feels like they speak my language or want to understand my language. I do not do well with small talk questions. How are you? Let's catch up. Tell me what's going on. I'm like, I don't, and then I feel the pressure. Or bigger questions. Why can't you make this work? Why are you still following this? Why isn't it making you money? Why? And growing up, when I would ask those questions, I'd always be like, I don't know. Why can't you just do your homework? I don't know. Stop asking me. And then on social media, and we have to remember, it's social media. Think about media. Think about the news. It's entertainment. Social media is social entertainment. So then I go on social media, because social media is a tool, when I use it properly, works well for me. When I say properly, I should say in alignment. But what happens a lot, and this has really been escalating over the past few years, and as much as I try to change my algorithm and just follow people that do like architecture and interior design and dance with trees, I seem to still get people that are on here yelling. And it feels like I'm back in that household. I'm being yelled at and I'm being asked questions I don't have the answer to. And that's what it felt like a lot for me. It was like, I don't know how to show up because the world feels heavy and it wants me to solve the entire world. It wants me to solve all the problems. It wants me to solve this for billions of people. It wants me to answer questions that I don't have answers to. There's so many, like the spiritual industry, it's just not, like, it's not fun. It's kind of junky, or it's just mean. And it's like, what is going on here? I'm not saying everyone's like that, but like it seems the algorithm seems to favor the junk, like the junk food spirituality, and the mean lens of self-development and spirituality and therapy where everyone's pointing the finger at each other. Everyone's yelling. Everyone's telling you what to do. People are saying, unfollow me if you don't agree with me. How is that spiritual? Unfollow me. You need to do this. You need to feel this way. And people are also being triggered because not only is it activating things that maybe happen to them physically, it might also be activating and mirroring things that happened within their home. Sometimes when I go into Instagram, it feels like I'm walking into my house at 12 years old. And I really have worked really hard to not repeat that situation or that environment. But it's very sneaky, just like the snake, to come in and take hold of you, to hiss at you, to make you feel like you're not enough, to make you feel like you need to be doing more. So all that to say, though, when I had those realizations, it really was just like, fuck it. I'm going to use my voice and I'm going to share Aquarian truths because that's all I've got. I have nothing left. I am so at the space where I am depleted and really clear that I'm not living the life I want. I'm financially not where I want to be. I'm not taking care of myself. I'm not doing things that I very much love to do on my Venus line. Living on my moon line had a piece of this too, which will be a different episode. I want to talk about the impact my moon line had on me. But I just felt like I was at the mercy of trying to get by. And when you're at that vulnerable state, when you're in that position, at least for me, as a triple Leo, I had no choice but to be myself. And to be like, I don't care if anyone's judging me because at the end of the day, I got to do me and I got to take care of me. And so that's what I did. I started sharing in my own way, in my own truth. And yeah, some people got snappy about it. Some people didn't like it. Okay. But you know what? Thousands more people did. And before I knew it, my business was having a resurgence. My calendar was being booked out. It's currently February 10th, and I am booked out through the beginning of March right now. You know how beautiful that is? Do you know how wonderful it is to be seen and recognized for your voice, for your unique brilliance, for your gifts? But the only way that will happen is if you give yourself a chance. And what I was doing, because I was scared, because I was in fear, because things were going slow, I was denying my genius. I was trying to search for one outside of me, for some other thing to take care of me, which wouldn't have worked. That's why I didn't get hired for any full-time jobs. The universe was like, Danielle, no way are we doing that to you. No way. Even if it's remote. It's a nice fantasy, but no. And so as things started to pick up, as I started to get recognized, I started to feel more like myself again. And because I'm Leo Sun Moon Rising, there is more of a natural need to be seen. And I say that from the space of when a Leo is in an evolutionary state, its highest role is to be the teacher. And in order to teach, you need students. You need an audience. You need to be seen. You need to be recognized. And so that's how it works for me. If I'm not being seen, if I'm not being recognized, it feels like death because I'm not being my higher role, which is the teacher. That's what it's about for me. It's not about the followers. It's not about, look at me. It's about, I have to teach. And if I don't teach, it feels like everything's being stripped away. And that's literally what happened. Everything got stripped away so that I could get back into the role of a teacher and that I could trust this process. But of course, there's still some kinks that I had to smooth out in true snaky nature. So I had my snake chemical peel, if you will, my layers stripped down, shed, removed, exhausted. And then I had this bright, shiny new skin that was ready to scale up. And I feel like the iteration of that full moon in Leo was really about the scaling for me, getting my nice, clean scale so I could witness myself as the more polished snake before we transition to the horse. And I was starting to notice it was creeping up on me, feeling like I didn't have enough time to do everything I wanted to do, to be able to work with the clients that have been booking with me. And I freaking adore you so much. We're having so much fun. And also tend to podcast. I started a Substack, which has been going really well, continuing to do reels, also making sure that I had time for myself. And then in turn, since basically mid-December, it was kind of like as soon as I got back on track, my sweet, sweet Zara needed me, because I know she's been holding space for me in this process over this past year. Very, very much so. She's such a sweet, beautiful angel baby. Aren't you, love? Oh, she's passed out in her little bed. And she needed me. She needed me physically. She needed me financially because of some things that she's going through. And after almost 2 months back and forth between the vet and getting teeth extracted and testing and working with intuitives, working with a Chinese medicine vet, essentially I've come to the conclusion, as a 13-year-old dog, she's starting to reach cognitive decline, which is causing her to be uncomfortable in a lot of ways. And I'm so grateful that I am now in a position where I could show up for her, because honestly, 4 months ago, 5 months ago, it would have been, I don't know what I would have done. I know that the universe would have come through and we would have figured it out, and maybe I would have stepped up my voice sooner. Who's to say? Yet, I am here now and available and able to help her, which is amazing. And that's not slowing down. But one thing I have noticed, because I have been doing this business full time since 2015, my one reoccurring pattern that happens within my business is a burnout cycle. So what will happen is the Leo will get like fully charged, ramped up, attract new clients, visibility, everything. It's just like boom, 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 boom. It's amazing. Money's coming in. We love it. And then I'm so busy with all of that, and it's taking up more of my time than I probably anticipated, I burn out. And part of that is also my Virgo archetypes. So I'm a Virgo Venus and Virgo Mercury. Virgo is the giver, the mother, the one that wants to hold it all together for everybody. And a lot of times when the Virgo kind of comes in, it's like, yeah, you got this. Yeah, yes, say yes, say yes, say yes, say yes. You're available, you're available, you're available. And it's why I answer almost every DM I get, every email I get. I'm always on because I want to be. And at the same time, from a Leo CEO position that I'm also in, it's not sustainable. And so I have to figure out better time freedom. And that was really my goal with the Leo full moon. So the Leo full moon was like, Danielle, what does time freedom look like? And how are you moving your business forward? So not only you don't burn out, but also you don't stop the flow. I don't want, to get to early March and then be like, oh, all the resources dried up, all the momentum is gone because I didn't have time to tend to that. So that's my current exploration, which is really exciting for me, because this is the iteration of my business that I haven't quite fully mastered, and I'm excited about for the next 6 months of my solar journey. So one piece of that was, I feel like it was right after the full moon in Leo. I was thinking about that. I'm like, okay, time freedom. What does this look like? What showing up with my true presence, being available, being seen, being recognized. But there's got to be better boundaries. There's got to be a better way to do it without. And here's the thing about boundaries. Boundaries isn't like being mean or harsh or being like, don't come at me or leave me alone, because that's not going to work either. Boundaries are just like reprioritizing the to-do list. It's just literally like, okay, here's my to-do list. Let's rearrange it so it has boundaries now. We're not saying no to any of this. Maybe a couple things. Maybe we trim it. Maybe we shift it a little. But at the end of the day, it's just reorganization of the to-do. That's it. So that it meets you better. You're not giving your power to other people on your list before you give power to what you need first. So right around that time, my friend here, she adores my dog Zara. They have like this really special little bond. And she was like, hey, like if you ever have a weekend coming up and you need someone to watch Zara, let me know. I could use some doggy time. And I was like, ooh. And at first I was like, I don't have anything, but I'll let you know. And then of course I like sat with it for a moment. I'm like, you're being gifted time away with probably the only person right now, given Zara's situation, that you trust her, or trust to be alone with, or to have someone take care of her. What can be done here? So I looked at my calendar. I saw I was completely free the weekend of February 7th, or 6th, rather. And I was like, oh, it's my half birthday. And then I was like, okay, well, I could just give her Zara and just hang here in my house. But I'm like, that doesn't really feel that sexy, that exciting. Like, it'll be fun for like a little bit, but then it's kind of like, meh, now I'm just kind of home alone. Like, I don't know if this is the vibe. And then I was like, okay, well, where could I go that's not like too far away, just in case like anything comes up and I really don't want to like get too far out. I mean, ideally I would go to like Big Bend or Marfa or Alpine, Texas. Those are all like 7-hour drives. So I was like, oh, Fredericksburg, which is like, I say this with love, the Napa of Texas, the Napa Valley of Texas. And I was kind of like, I don't know how it's going to be, because I'm going to be honest. And I think I might have said this in my last podcast episode. I was like, I know that I've been to states that have vineyards that aren't really known for it, like North Carolina, for example. Like, most people aren't like, yes, it's a North Carolina Cabernet Sauvignon. Oh, really? That's amazing. No, people don't really talk about that because it's like, meh. So I was kind of feeling the same way for Austin, or Texas rather. Like, am I going to love it? It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to go. I'm going to go play. They're going to book a hotel for Saturday night and just go. And I'm going to go off social media, because I was starting to feel like, even though I really don't try to spend a lot of time there, and I don't really like scrolling. I do like scrolling on TikTok sometimes, but I've definitely noticed the shift since the January US takeover. And it's just like, I just kept feeling more and more like the phone is not the best use of your time. If you want freedom, start with your phone. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go off the Instagram. I'm going to go off the TikTok. Those are the big two. Even like, I was like, I'm going to be mindful and not check my email. Like, I used to do this thing where I would treat my email like a slot machine. If you do that, where you like literally like you're at a stoplight and you like pull your phone up and you refresh your inbox to see if something came through. Yeah, you're making dinner. I pull up my phone. I pull up my inbox, refresh to see if something came through. Did I hit it? Did I get 777? Did I get all the cherries? Did someone book an appointment? Did I make a sale? Oh, is there a problem? Does somebody need me right now? I know I'm in the middle of cooking dinner, but I better respond to this. That's not so hot. So I stopped doing the slot machine email trick. And at the same time, though, I realized I'm like, I pretty sure my social media management's not so hot. So I'm like, I'm going to go off it. So literally drop off this on Saturday. Drop off Zara, hit the road, and offload TikTok and Instagram. And I just kind of make a pact with myself that I'm not going to really check my email. I'm allowed to check it like once each day. You get one pull of the machine. So I'm driving, and I really do love driving. I love driving. I love being on the road. I miss it. I miss being nomadic. I'm going to be honest. And I also think one of the hard things that I realized about living in Austin, really living anywhere because I move around so much, is my natural state is nomadic, and my natural state is living places seasonally. And so I think I was also having a hard time living in Austin because it felt very contained. Even the apartment I chose and what my monthly budget is and it just felt so finite to me. And that's what happens. And what I love about being nomadic, it's like you can be here for a little bit, then you can be there for a little bit. And even Austin, I realized my favorite time to be in Austin is February to May. I love that stretch. This is my is this my fourth round of doing that? Yeah, this is my fourth round of being here for the February to May stretch. And I love it. There's something about the air. There's something about the mood. There's something about the dawning of spring. I love it. And I don't know if I love Austin enough to live here year round, but that's because I don't know if I love anywhere enough to live year round. I believe it's possible in certain places, and I'm open to that down the road. But for now, it's just recognizing that I am seasonal and recognizing that Zara is not my dog. And so it's finding that sweet spot of what does it mean to be here? What does it mean to take breaks? What does it mean to still satisfy that nomadic spirit that I have within reason, given my current circumstances? And once again, that plays into time freedom. So anyway, I'm on the road. I'm having so much fun. I'm playing music. I'm feeling lighter. I'm taking in my surroundings. I'm driving through the Napa of Texas and seeing sign after sign for wineries. And I stop at one called Wild Seed Farms. And they have like one of those little like farm stores where they have all like the jellies and the mustards and whatnot and all the crackers. And I like right away, I'm like, ooh, yes. And I'm literally trying all the samples. And then I go into the tasting room and I order the dry tasting. So I'm like, all right, let's see what happens. Not sure what to expect here. And I order a soft pretzel, even though I have been living gluten-free. I was like, I want this soft pretzel. And I'm like, it's okay. You're on your little vacay. Have your soft pretzel. And then we start the tasting. I will say there was a white. It was like an Albarino. Delicious. It was very similar to a Sauvignon Blanc. There was a rosé that was a nice dry rosé as well. And then the reds I fell in love with because apparently the grapes from Texas very much mirror grapes from Spain. And I love Spanish wines. And Spain is also my moon zenith point, which is the most saturated part of my moon. And Austin is my moon line as well. So I thought that was interesting. And I actually wanted to explore more of that, but I haven't yet. Okay, so I do the tasting. Great. Then I go and I check into my hotel. And it was interesting. On the way to the hotel, I saw like an organic juice place. And I was like, oh, I should stop there. And then I was like, no, I want to eat all the food in Fredericksburg. I'm like, okay. Like, that's not normally how I travel. Here's the one thing. Traveling by yourself is amazing. But I will say, though, the biggest limitation traveling by yourself sometimes, besides like beautiful companionship, is like you can't share food. You can't share like everything. So you have to be kind of picky about what you're getting. And I'm not like a big, like, let's just like splurge and like waste things. Like I very much feel like I if I'm going to get you, I'm going to eat all of you. So I was very much in this mindset of like, no, I'm going to go in town and eat all the things. I'm like, okay. So I literally, what's the next thing I do? I go to like a German bakery, buy another soft pretzel. Then I buy a sweet pretzel. And then I buy a freaking pretzel dog. I'm like, who are you, Danielle? But I'm like, I'm just treating myself. I'm just having a good time. I'm like, okay. Meanwhile, all this is happening. I'm not reaching for Instagram. I'm not looking to check it. I feel really great. I'm taking photos. I'm doing my thing. And then I just continue to eat my way through this town. So much so that I wasn't able to go to dinner because I was too full. And there was a place I had was hoping to do a little dinner at. And then I go back to my hotel room after I did step back out to get, there was like this haunted bar that I wanted to go to. I think it's called 787 something bar. And one of the photos is haunted. It was, yeah, she's very alive in that thing. She's not, I wouldn't even call it haunted. I'd just say it's alive. It's a photo where someone's literally still alive and trapped in the photo. That was kind of weird. So anyway, I went there. Then I went home and I still had some leftovers from like some of the things that I had bought along the way. And I sat in bed and I like binged. And I was like, this is weird. But I'm like, it's okay. It feels good. Zara's not here to like try to eat your food. You're eating in bed. Look at you. You're being indulgent. Great. Blah, blah, blah. Then the next morning, I like wanted to do it again. And then that night, even when I got home, I did it again. And I like by that point, I was like, all right, what is going on here, Danielle? If you don't know, I have a background in binge eating. So like I did a thesis on binge eating back in the day. And part of where my binge eating came from, and we're going to tie this all together, it's from growing up, being put on a diet basically as soon as I gained any weight at 11, 12 years old, and being monitored when it came to my food. Because not only in my household where you never really knew what you were going to get, you always had to be available. I always felt like I was being watched, especially in the kitchen and especially near the pantry. It was like my mother had this radar where she could literally be at the farthest point of the house. She could be outside gardening and somehow she would know Danielle is in the pantry right now. I was only allowed to eat what I was told I was allowed to eat. And so because of that, I desperately wanted food freedom. I wanted to be able to eat when I wanted to eat. I wanted to have a snack. I wanted to have pretzels. You know, my favorite thing was pretzels. And that was the thing, not only like hard pretzels, but then like the soft pretzels, like those freezer ones. What was that company? Oh my gosh, you know, with the box. You get the pretzels, and they have the movie theaters too. I can't think of the name, but anyway, we're not. Yeah, let's look it. No, we're not gonna look it up. It's okay. It doesn't matter. You get super pretzel. So I would literally, because I didn't want her to hear the toaster in the microwave, I would take it out frozen, and I bring it up to my room, and I would let it like thaw out just enough so that then I could eat it. That's what started my binging, my finding ways to hoard food and then eat as much as I could because I knew I had a limited window. I didn't want to get caught. So that's what started the binge eating for me. The feeling of being watched, the feeling like I didn't have freedom. And when I was able to like grab the food and not get caught, it felt like freedom. It felt like a reward. It felt like I successfully escaped. And it's something that basically for the next 13 years, it wasn't until right before my Saturn return when I was 25 years old that it got to its peak where it was really bad because I was living by myself at that time for the first time. And I was using it as a way to not only binge eat, but to binge drink as well. Now, I wasn't binge drinking or anything like that over the weekend because my addictive personality really just comes from the need to escape, the need to feel free. And it's like pick your flavor when it comes to the thing. And I also have rules around drinking that I'm still very hardcore about. So the food, though, I kind of stopped having rules about because when I was able to heal my binge eating, I moved into intuitive eating, and that's just been my framework for eating basically the last 15 years of my life. So when this started happening, it took me by surprise. And I didn't understand what was happening until yesterday when I woke up, it was my half birthday, and I was like, I just want to fast today. I don't want to eat. I want my coffee, but I do not want to eat today. That does not feel like it's on the agenda. My body is stretched. My belly is over it. And I'm like, what was that? Was it that you've been so deprived of your freedom that you felt like you had to do this? And I'm like, I don't think that's what it was. And then it clicked because I still haven't been on Instagram. I was like, it was interesting how easy it was for you to give up Instagram. And what did you do as soon as you gave up a vice? You reached for another one. I didn't mind not being on social media. I didn't mind not having the dynamics that oftentimes, again, like sometimes I go on social and I'm just like, this isn't fun. Why are people being mean? Why? Like, I know my beliefs. I know who I am. Why are you making me question that? And so the trade-off of not being on that became, well, then reach for something else, Danielle. I was like, whoa, that's a big one. That's a big one. So, of course, now that I see it, I'm like, okay, cool. So now we have to realize, or I have to realize, maybe we have to realize if you have the same thing. When I let go of social media and the addictive pull that it has had on me, and it's honestly been the outlet for me to quote unquote have that binge effect or have that feeling of being punished or having to be available or having to answer questions or mimic and mirror a lot of things from my teenage years. The not being on those devices is freedom, is relief, and more autonomy to be myself. And then the next question becomes, where is there still a part of you that needs that fix? And there was a part of me that still wanted that fix, was because there was still a part of me that couldn't believe that my life could be orchestrated in the way that I wanted. I was still a little bit holding on to that story of you can't be profitable because of your genius. You can't live comfortably and have more than enough. So we're going to hijack your body because we know, here's the thing, social media numbs you and it dilutes you. It does. Like I can 100% say that if I go on Instagram and then I go to like record my own video and I was on Instagram for a few minutes first, it's not going to be as good of a video as opposed to the times where I'm sitting in my meditation, I'm having my coffee, I get a download, I get up, I hit record. Very different experience. So I could let social media numb me, which then dilutes my power, or I could let food numb me, which also dilutes my power. So the real question becomes, it's not about the social media, it's not about the food. It's about, why are you still letting yourself be numb? Why are you still holding back from fully feeling alive? Why are you still feeling guilt around that? And it's like, okay, I see that. And I'm going to be with that inquiry. And I'm going to continue to show up. And I'm going to continue to stand up for myself and for not only my time freedom that I'm looking for, but my ability to feel alive, my ability to feel on, my ability to recognize and realize that I am designed for these times. And I am going to be seen, and I am going to be witnessed, and I am going to be recognized, and I am going to be well paid, because that's part of this framework for me. And that's just how it goes. And if someone doesn't like that, if someone wants to mirror and model who was the spokesperson when it came to how to live your life for me growing up, go for it. But I'm in my own grace. I'm taking care of my dog. I'm taking care of my gifts. I'm taking care of my life. And I had to be in that really interesting discomfort and awkwardness of still wanting to numb. And I wouldn't have seen it if I didn't do this little social detox. I would have thought I was fine. Oh, I don't binge. Yes, you do, Danielle. Huh? You've been binging and you didn't realize it. And so I did go back on Instagram a little bit, but because here's the thing, just like with food, just like with sex, just like with so many things, even if you've been addicted to it, like it still needs to be part of your ecosystem. At least for me, like I would like sex to be part of my ecosystem, but that's another story for another day. Food needs to be a part of my ecosystem. And so does social media, because I enjoy creating content. I enjoy writing. I am excited to see how my Substack grows, because I do feel like that's a better model for what I'm moving towards. But I also still want to see people on Instagram and people that I love and I care about, people that I follow and admire, art and music and creatives. I still love all of that, but it has to be more in a meal digestible format. So twofold, how am I structuring it as a business owner, scheduling more content, being very clear about how I'm recording it and uploading it and not getting distracted in the process. And then also, how much time am I making? Just like how much food, how many calories am I consuming in a day? Same thing. How many minutes am I consuming in a day? And what is the healthy range for me? And that's what it comes down to, because for me, my best life is a life where I find that happy medium, where I live in moderation, where I don't deny myself anything, but I don't live in excess. Only financially do I live in excess. So that was my biggest conclusion, my biggest takeaway. It's so interesting how our journeys and our stories will creep up on us, or how they will slither in like the snake when we don't expect it. And I'm grateful for this little experiment. And I'm grateful that I caught on so quickly to be able to understand, so that I can continue to move forward, especially when we start to move into the horse. So that's my story. I hope you loved it. I hope you still I hope that if you decide to downgrade your time on social media, you still factor me into part of your caloric intake and digest me accordingly. And I appreciate you listening to the show. For many of you that have now joined me over on Substack, I love it. I adore you. I love working with you. This work lights me up, and I'm grateful to be able to do what I do, and also now be in a position where I can maximize my time and freedom within that too. And I encourage, if you are in a role where you are looking for something similar, to explore it, because the world is only going to get spicier, and you doing what you do is so needed when people need relief from that. All right. I love you.